Marriage, like any living organism, is subject to the relentless passage of time and undergoes inevitable transformations. But what lurks behind that ominous shadow when, after many years of marriage, a wife begins to feel a chilling chasm between herself and her chosen partner? What unseen forces drive a woman, once madly in love with her husband, to gradually distance herself, lose her former enthusiasm, and sink into an abyss of apathy? This is a bitter truth of life, one that many couples, alas, face, but only a few find the courage to speak about publicly. The inexorable fading of former affection, subtle changes in behavior, a quiet, gnawing pain of disappointment that accumulates year after year, like a snowball. This destructive process does not unfold overnight, like a theatrical production. It is the logical result of a prolonged period of unmet desires, unexpressed grievances, and missed opportunities for rapprochement. And often, the true source of the problem lies not where it is primarily sought. It is not so much that romantic love has vanished without a trace, like smoke, but rather the acute realization of what a genuine, real feeling of love should be, based on mutual respect, support, and understanding. Often, the root of the problem lies in very specific and tangible circumstances that accumulate over the years. In this article, we will attempt to delve into the essence of those deep processes that influence the transformation of a woman's attitude towards her life partner over time. We will also consider effective measures that can correct the situation before a critical point of no return is reached. Whether you are a man, a woman, or simply interested in the phenomenon of long-term relationships, stay with us until the end. It is very likely that this journey into the world of feelings will forever change your understanding of love, aging, and the institution of marriage. 1. Emotional burden turns into an unbearable weight. Throughout many years of married life, women often voluntarily or involuntarily take on the role of emotional keeper of the family hearth. They remember all important dates, from birthdays to wedding anniversaries, organize family holidays and celebrations, schedule doctor's appointments, monitor the health of all family members, and in most cases, bear the main burden of caring for the household. However, with the passage of time and the onset of maturity comes the realization that this invisible but crucial work has a colossal, sometimes devastating impact on their overall well-being and emotional state. And here is that bitter truth that few dare to voice aloud. The vast majority of men do not even suspect the scale of what is happening and the price that their wives pay for maintaining apparent well-being. In marriage, a situation often arises where women begin to feel an excessive burden of responsibility for the well-being of the family, while their husbands seem to simply enjoy life without making a sufficient contribution to the common cause. This leads to a sense of injustice and emotional overload. One of the serious problems is the disappearance of sincere communication between spouses. During the early stages of a relationship, partners show keen interest in each other, sharing impressions of the past day, discussing plans and dreams. However, over time, many men lose the ability to have deep and meaningful conversations with their wives. Communication becomes a formality, devoid of emotional warmth, or disappears altogether. A woman striving for emotional closeness, without which she feels lonely and insignificant, suffers from the lack of soulful contact. The continuous stream of household duties also becomes a serious challenge for women in long-term marriages. Statistical data confirms that even in modern society, women continue to bear the main burden of housekeeping, and this trend persists even after retirement. By mature age, many women experience feelings of fatigue and exhaustion from the endless routine of everyday life. Beginning with minor annoyances, such as dishes left in the sink or carelessly scattered clothes, dissatisfaction in the relationship gradually turns into deep resentment, undermining the very foundations of the marriage. A woman, like a cornered animal, begins to ask herself a logical question. Why is she the one who bears the burden of constantly maintaining order and comfort in the house? Why do her efforts go unnoticed and unappreciated? Over time, as life priorities change, many women strive for self-improvement and personal growth. They are drawn to new horizons, travels to uncharted lands, active participation in public life, and a constant broadening of their horizons. However, if a spouse does not show a desire to keep up with the times and develop alongside her, a feeling of being trapped within outdated ideas about marriage arises. A woman feels like a bird in a cage, deprived of the opportunity to spread her wings and fly. If she feels that her life is full of movement and progress and her partner remains in place, the emotional gap between them steadily widens, threatening to engulf the remnants of their former closeness. No less important factor affecting the fading of feelings is the loss of physical and emotional intimacy. Intimacy is not only physical contact and intimate connection, but also a sense of spiritual kinship, a feeling of being desired and significant to a partner. Over time, under the influence of everyday problems and life's troubles, many couples lose this spark that once ignited their hearts. For a woman, this loss can feel like a harbinger of an impending storm, a sinister sign of the fading of love and a harbinger of the inevitable breakdown of the relationship. When the spark of passion fades in a relationship, when the spouse's gaze no longer reflects the former admiration, the woman naturally begins to erect emotional barriers. The feeling of being unwanted and the loss of a sense of her own attractiveness push her to alienation, creating a distance between her and her partner. The transition to a well-deserved rest, contrary to popular belief, does not always bring harmony and serenity to family life. Often, the long-awaited retirement becomes a catalyst for hidden problems and a source of new disagreements. Many couples who imagined idyllic pictures of joint travels and boundless happiness face a harsh reality. Now they are forced to spend all day together, and not every man is ready for such a turn of events. The lack of clear plans for the future and the inability to find something to do after the end of work activities lead to the fact that yesterday's worker, freed from official duties, finds himself at a loss. In such situations, unfortunately, in many families, the wife involuntarily turns into a leisure organizer for her husband. He expects her to take responsibility for filling his time, providing comfort, and constantly being there. This suddenly imposed burden can be unbearable for a woman who has already successfully coped with many responsibilities, and now she has to bear an additional burden of expectations and demands. Retirement, contrary to expectations of long-awaited peace, often turns into a feeling of unfreedom and even suffocation. A woman who does not have her own hobbies, circle of friends, and personal interests risks finding herself trapped in an existence that is alien to her. This growing discontent can gradually destroy even the strongest feelings for her spouse. The feeling that her voice no longer has weight and significance becomes one of the most acute wounds in the marriage. It is not disputes and disagreements at all, but the feeling of invisibility that causes the woman the greatest pain. After many years devoted to the role of emotional support for the whole family, many women come to the realization that their opinion has ceased to be taken into account. They try to share their experiences, express concerns, and participate in important conversations, but their spouses remain deaf to their words. A woman does not need extravagant actions or expensive gifts. She needs to feel that she is being heard. It is important for her to realize that her thoughts, judgments, and feelings are still important to the person with whom she has shared a significant part of her life. Otherwise, she begins to distance herself emotionally, and restoring the former closeness becomes an extremely difficult task. When a woman faces prolonged neglect, her desire for rapprochement gradually fades away, and the former feeling of attachment transforms into hidden discontent. Over time, the value of every moment becomes clear. Life experience, marked by losses and reflections on the transience of being, makes one rethink priorities. A woman begins to look at her marriage from a different angle, asking herself key questions. Does she feel happy? Does she feel love and support? Does she imagine her future like this? Unsatisfactory answers push her to alienation, which is dictated not by anger, but by a desire for self-preservation and personal well-being. Many women, tired of fruitless attempts to improve relations, stop fighting for attention and focus on themselves. If the spouse does not show readiness for change and does not seek to satisfy her needs, she distances herself emotionally and sometimes physically, choosing the path of self-sufficiency and inner balance. It is quite understandable why some women, after living in marriage for many years, refuse further attempts to save the union. The reason isn't the loss of feelings for a partner, but rather the realization of one's own worth and the desire for a more fulfilling life than simply existing in someone else's shadow. With age, priorities in relationships undergo changes. Youthful impulses and vivid displays of romance are replaced by a need for presence, deep understanding, and mutual respect. When estrangement arises between spouses, it's rarely the result of a sudden loss of love. More often, it's connected to a feeling of being unneeded, a loss of value and significance in the partner's eyes. Unfortunately, this is a typical scenario for many marriages. Love doesn't disappear instantly like a flash. It fades gradually in a series of small, seemingly insignificant events. Moments when a woman feels unheard. Years when she's forced to bear the burden of emotional perigivany alone. Periods when she needs support but is met only with indifferent silence. But is such an outcome inevitable? Absolutely not. Love is a conscious choice that requires constant work and effort. Like a fading flame, it can be rekindled with effort and genuine desire. Every man who encounters these lines probably wonders, when was the last time he genuinely listened to his wife's words? When did he express his appreciation not only as a business partner in the household, but also as a unique individual with her own aspirations and experiences? And every woman who feels the chill of estrangement should ask herself, is there still a possibility to revive the former warmth in the relationship? Marriage is not a triumphant finish line. It's a daily conscious choice in favor of each other, despite the relentless passage of time that changes appearances and views. It's painstaking work woven from details that eloquently testify, I still see your soul. I value your contribution to our life. You still occupy an important place in my heart. These signs of attention can be different, from an unexpected bouquet of flowers to attentively listening to problems at work. If there's only one thought to take away from everything said, let it be this. Love doesn't fade under the burden of years. It dies from a lack of attention and care. If there's a sincere desire to preserve the flame of passion and mutual understanding in mature years, it's never too late to start acting. Make a choice in favor of love. Show compassion, and most importantly, make a choice in favor of your partner every day. There's still a long road ahead, full of opportunities to strengthen the union. What awaits us ahead? Continue to follow new publications to learn more about the secrets of preserving love for many years, how to overcome crises and build strong, happy relationships that have stood the test of time. After all, love is not only a beautiful feeling, but also an art that requires constant improvement.